Continuing from previous day's presentation, I your host Harshit Simha, welcome to a discerning exploration of Sustainable Development Goal 8, SDG 8, which is dedicated to advancing sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, alongside the generation of full and productive employment and the assurance of decent work for all. At the heart of SDG 8 lies the aspiration to foster prosperity that is both equitable and enduring, a vision that resonates universally yet poses distinct challenges across diverse national contexts. SDG 8 stands as a pillar for global progress, seeking not only the expansion of economies but also the cultivation of opportunities that elevate lives, diminish poverty, and empower communities. In India, as in many other nations, the realization of this goal is beset by intricate challenges: the prevalence of informal labor, persistent gender disparities within the workforce, and the imperative to secure fair working conditions for all. The quest for quality employment is further complicated by transformative forces such as globalization and rapid technological automation, which continuously reshape labor markets and demand adaptive skills. Globally, efforts to actualize SDG 8 encompass multifaceted strategies. Governments and organizations are investing in education and vocational training, implementing policies to bridge the gender divide, and enacting labor protections that uphold dignity in work. Environmental constraints also necessitate a delicate balance. Growth must not compromise ecological integrity but instead harmonize economic aspirations with sustainability. As we journey through the complex landscape of this vital goal, we encounter both formidable obstacles and inspiring pathways. The commitment to decent work and economic growth is not merely a matter of policy but a testament to shared human values, offering the promise of a more just and prosperous future for all. Let us engage thoughtfully with these issues, striving towards a global economy marked by inclusivity, resilience, and opportunity. Slide 2. Understanding SDG 8, the core concept. Sustainable Development Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, articulates a sophisticated and necessary reconceptualization of economic progress for the 21st century. It surgically dismantles the archaic notion that gross domestic product, GDP, growth is a singular, sufficient indicator of a nation's advancement. Instead, SDG 8 posits a tripartite framework for a robust economy, intertwining sustainable growth, an inclusive economy, and decent work as inseparable and mutually reinforcing pillars. This paradigm shift moves beyond quantitative expansion to prioritize the qualitative, equitable, and enduring nature of economic activity. The goal's profundity lies in its synthesis of these elements. Sustainable growth demands economic advancement that is decoupled from environmental degradation, insisting that long-term prosperity is contingent upon operating within our planetary boundaries. Concurrently, an inclusive economy mandates that the fruits of this growth are distributed equitably across all segments of society, mitigating inequalities and ensuring broad-based participation. This is operationalized through the principle of decent work, which encompasses fair income, secure employment, comprehensive social protection, and the prospect of personal development and social integration. Ultimately, SDG 8 is a manifesto for systemic economic resilience rooted in human dignity. It acknowledges that an economy which exploits its people or its natural environment is inherently fragile. By inextricably linking decent work with economic development, the goal asserts that true sustainability is a triad, balancing the needs of people, the planet, and profits. It envisions an economic system that does not merely grow but evolves to become a generative force for societal well-being and ecological integrity, establishing a foundation for lasting prosperity. Slide 3. Key targets of SDG 8. The architecture of Sustainable Development Goal 8 is defined by a suite of precise and ambitious targets that translate its overarching vision into actionable priorities. These targets collectively forge a path toward economic progress that is simultaneously robust, equitable, and environmentally sustainable. A cornerstone objective is the pursuit of sustained per capita economic growth, with a specific mandate for least developed countries to achieve at least 7% annual GDP growth. This recognizes the critical need for accelerated catch-up while implicitly demanding that this expansion be qualitatively different from historical models. This growth is explicitly framed by targets that dictate its character. It must be driven by productive diversification and innovation, fostered through policies that champion entrepreneurship, creativity, and economic complexity to build resilience against global shocks. Crucially, this advancement is decoupled from ecological harm through the imperative to improve global resource efficiency, advocating for a systemic transition towards circular economic models that sever the traditional link between prosperity and environmental degradation. The social contract of SDG 8 is enshrined in the target to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all, explicitly including marginalized groups such as youth and persons with disabilities. This is substantiated by foundational sub-targets that address the darkest facets of the global economy: the eradication of modern slavery, forced labor, and child labor. Furthermore, the goal calls for the protection of labor rights and the promotion of safe working environments, thereby ensuring that economic participation is rooted in dignity. Augmenting this is a focus on financial inclusion and the promotion of sustainable tourism, illustrating a comprehensive and multifaceted strategy to ensure economic growth truly benefits people and the planet. Slide 4. The global significance of SDG 8. Sustainable Development Goal 8, SDG 8, transcends its economic core, establishing itself as a fundamental pillar for achieving a just and resilient global future. Its mandate for sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all, addresses interconnected challenges that define our era. The goal's profound significance lies in its synergistic role as a catalyst for progress across the entire 2030 agenda. Inclusive economic growth is a potent instrument for reducing inequality, SDG 10, systematically dismantling socio-economic and gender divides by creating equitable access to opportunity. Concurrently, decent work provides the most reliable pathway out of poverty, SDG 1, empowering individuals with the resources to invest in health, SDG 3, and education, SDG 4, thereby generating positive multiplicative effects throughout society. This economic empowerment is also a critical stabilizing force. By mitigating the despair that fuels social unrest and forced displacement, SDG 8 contributes directly to more peaceful and secure communities, SDG 16. Perhaps its most critical modern interpretation is the imperative for environmental harmony. SDG 8 explicitly rejects the outdated trade-off between prosperity and planetary health. By advocating for sustainable growth models that decouple economic activity from environmental degradation, it acknowledges that long-term prosperity is inextricably linked to maintaining ecological balance. This ensures the protection of natural resources for future generations, making SDG 8 a non-negotiable component of climate action, SDG 13, and life on land, SDG 15. Ultimately, SDG 8 is the linchpin that connects human well-being to planetary health, making it indispensable for building an equitable and resilient world. Slide 5. India's economic growth landscape. India has solidified its position as one of the world's fastest-growing major economies, characterized by a dynamic and rapidly expanding services sector that contributes over half of its GDP. This growth has been propelled by its established role as a global hub for information technology and business process outsourcing. Concurrently, initiatives like Make in India have sought to reinvigorate the manufacturing sector, positioning it as a critical future engine for job creation and more inclusive development. However, this impressive macroeconomic narrative is tempered by significant internal disparities. Growth has been profoundly uneven, creating a dual economy where urban centers advance rapidly while rural areas often lag behind. Furthermore, substantial regional inequalities persist, with a select group of states consistently outperforming others. These geographical and demographic imbalances present a formidable challenge to India's pursuit of SDG 8, underscoring the critical need for policies that not only stimulate aggregate economic expansion but also ensure that its benefits are distributed equitably across all segments of society and regions of the country. Slide 6. India's employment challenges. India's trajectory towards achieving SDG 8 is fundamentally challenged by a complex employment landscape that extends beyond mere job creation to issues of quality, equity, and security. The most defining feature is the overwhelming dominance of the informal sector, which engulfs nearly 90% of the workforce. This vast segment, comprising agricultural laborers, street vendors, and domestic helpers, operates without social security, job stability, or legal protections, rendering them highly vulnerable to economic shocks. Compounding this is a severe youth unemployment crisis. Paradoxically, despite possessing a coveted demographic dividend, India struggles to harness its young population. Unemployment rates are disproportionately higher among educated youth, underscoring a critical skills mismatch between the outputs of the education system and the demands of the modern labor market. This not represents a massive squandered opportunity but also a potential source of social friction. Furthermore, India's growth story is marred by a persistently low and declining female labor force participation rate, FLFPR, which remains among the lowest globally at approximately 20 to 25%. This disparity, driven by deeply entrenched cultural norms, safety concerns, and a lack of suitable employment opportunities, signifies a substantial loss of productive potential and undermines inclusive development. The central challenge, therefore, is not only to accelerate the pace of job creation but to ensure that growth generates formal, secure, and decent work that includes all segments of society, particularly women and the youth. Slide 7. India's initiatives toward SDG. Recognizing the profound challenges within its employment landscape, India has launched a multi-pronged policy arsenal aimed at fostering decent work and sustainable economic growth in alignment with SDG 8. These initiatives target various facets of the economy, from foundational security to cutting-edge innovation. A cornerstone of this effort is the Skill India mission, designed to bridge the employability gap by equipping millions with industry-relevant skills. For informal and rural workers, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MGNREGA, provides a critical social safety net by guaranteeing wage employment, thereby enhancing livelihood security. To catalyze job creation in the modern economy, the Startup India initiative fosters entrepreneurship through funding incentives and tax benefits, while the Production-Linked Incentive (PLI) scheme aims to boost manufacturing exports and generate formal sector employment. Concurrently, efforts to extend financial inclusion through the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana have brought millions into the formal banking system, empowering economic participation. The ambitious Digital India campaign further supports this by creating a digital infrastructure that spawns new economic opportunities. On the regulatory front, the consolidation of 29 labor laws into 4 streamlined codes represents a transformative effort to extend social security to informal workers and simplify business compliance, though its full implementation remains an ongoing process. While these initiatives demonstrate a comprehensive governmental commitment to SDG 8, their ultimate success hinges on effective implementation, robust monitoring, and their ability to generate a sufficient volume of high-quality, inclusive employment to meet the demands of India's growing workforce. Slide 8. Challenges in India's SDG 8 journey. India's pursuit of Sustainable Development Goal 8, while supported by ambitious initiatives, is fraught with multifaceted and deeply entrenched challenges that threaten to undermine its progress. A primary structural impediment is the pervasive education-employment mismatch, where the higher education system produces a surplus of graduates who lack the industry-relevant skills demanded by a modern economy. This results in the paradoxical coexistence of high-educated youth unemployment and a large number of unfilled skilled positions, stifling productivity and growth. Compounding this is the dual threat of automation and persistent manufacturing constraints. Technological advancements and the rise of AI are rapidly displacing routine, low-skilled jobs in both manufacturing and services sectors, potentially outpacing the creation of new roles. Simultaneously, the manufacturing sector, crucial for mass employment, is hampered by infrastructural deficits, regulatory complexities, and intense global competition, preventing it from becoming the job engine it needs to be. Furthermore, India's developmental regional disparities present a formidable hurdle. A significant economic divide exists between more industrialized states like Maharashtra and Karnataka and those in the eastern and northeastern regions, which lag behind. This uneven growth pattern exacerbates inequality and necessitates highly targeted, region-specific interventions. The shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic also lingers, having caused severe economic disruption, reversing poverty reduction gains, and highlighting the profound vulnerability of India's vast informal workforce. A successful strategy requires not only economic growth but a resilient and inclusive model that can withstand global shocks and technological disruption. Slide 9. Informal economy, India's double-edged sword. India's informal economy represents a profound paradox in its development narrative, functioning simultaneously as a critical source of resilience and a significant barrier to achieving SDG 8's objectives of decent work. Employing approximately 90% of the workforce and contributing an estimated half of the national GDP, this vast sector is the undeniable backbone of livelihood provision, particularly for migrant and vulnerable populations. It operates as an essential, albeit unofficial, social safety net, absorbing labor during economic contractions and providing a means of survival where formal structures fail. However, this immense challenge comes at a steep cost. The sector is characterized by a pervasive lack of social security, job stability, and legal protections, trapping millions in a cycle of low productivity and economic precarity. Workers face inadequate wages, unsafe conditions, and high vulnerability to exploitation and shocks, as starkly evidenced during the COVID-19 pandemic. This informality also constrains broader economic development by limiting the tax base and hindering workers' access to formal credit and financial services. Consequently, policy approaches must navigate this duality with nuance. Simply eliminating informality is neither feasible nor desirable without creating sufficient formal alternatives. The challenge lies in gradual formalization through targeted interventions that preserve livelihoods while enhancing job quality. Initiatives like the eShram portal, which aims to register informal workers and facilitate their access to welfare schemes, represent a pragmatic step toward acknowledging the sector's permanence while extending a measure of security. Ultimately, harnessing the informal sector's dynamism while mitigating its drawbacks is central to India's inclusive growth agenda. Slide 10. Global comparison. Developed nations. Developed nations provide a critical benchmark for SDG 8, demonstrating the transformative impact of strong institutional frameworks on labor market outcomes. Countries like Sweden, Denmark, and Germany exemplify high-performance models where robust labor regulations and stringent enforcement mechanisms ensure widespread adherence to decent work standards. A cornerstone of their success is the provision of comprehensive social security systems, including universal healthcare, substantial unemployment benefits, and dignified retirement pensions, which collectively decommodify labor and protect citizens from economic precarity. Furthermore, these nations excel through their investment in sophisticated skills development ecosystems. A deep-seated culture of lifelong learning, supported by extensive vocational training infrastructure and active collaboration between industry and educational institutions, ensures the workforce remains adaptable and resilient in the face of technological disruption and global economic shifts. This model of flexicurity, balancing labor market flexibility with strong social security, has been instrumental in maintaining both economic competitiveness and social cohesion. However, this achievement is not without its contemporary challenges. Even advanced economies grapple with wage stagnation for median workers, rising income inequality, and the expansion of precarious employment within the gig economy, which often exists outside traditional protective frameworks. These pressures test the resilience of their social contracts, proving that the pursuit of sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth is a continuous process of adaptation rather than a final destination. Their experience underscores that strong institutions and social dialogue are prerequisites for turning economic prosperity into broad-based well-being. Slide 11. Global comparison. Developing nations. For developing nations, the pursuit of SDG 8 is a complex endeavor fraught with structural constraints and difficult trade-offs, often mirroring India's own challenges. A dominant feature across these economies is the pervasiveness of the informal sector, which, while providing essential livelihoods, traps a majority of the workforce in low productivity, low security employment without social protection, perpetuating cycles of vulnerability. A common developmental strategy is a focused push for industrialization, particularly in labor-intensive manufacturing and extractive industries, to create jobs and boost exports. Nations like Vietnam and Bangladesh have made significant strides through this model, lifting millions from extreme poverty. However, this path frequently involves serious informal economy trade-offs and can be marred by challenging working conditions, especially in export processing zones where regulatory oversight may be weaker. This highlights a critical tension between rapid job creation and the decent work agenda. Compounding these issues is the uneven enforcement of labor regulations. While progressive laws may exist on paper, limited institutional capacity, corruption, and resource constraints often render them ineffective, allowing workplace abuses and safety violations to persist. Furthermore, many developing countries continue to grapple with the scourge of child labor, particularly in agriculture and mining, which undermines educational attainment and perpetuates intergenerational poverty. Their progress is also highly susceptible to global commodity price fluctuations and economic shocks, revealing a fragile foundation for sustainable development. Their experience underscores that achieving SDG 8 requires not just economic growth but building resilient institutions that can enforce standards and protect the most vulnerable. Slide 12. Success Stories. Vietnam's Economic Transformation. Vietnam stands as a paradigm of successful economic development, offering a compelling blueprint for achieving core aspects of SDG 8. Over the past 2 decades, the nation has achieved an remarkable average annual GDP growth of 6.5%, a feat underpinned by strategic economic reforms, doi mua, and a laser focus on export-oriented manufacturing. This sustained expansion has fueled the creation of over 40 million jobs, dramatically reducing the poverty rate from a staggering 70% in the 1990s to approximately 5% today. The cornerstone of this transformation has been Vietnam's exceptional ability to attract foreign direct investment, FDI, into labor-intensive sectors such as electronics, textiles, and footwear. By positioning itself as a competitive and stable manufacturing hub within global supply chains, it has generated massive employment opportunities for its growing workforce. Crucially, unlike many developing nations, Vietnam has demonstrated a pronounced capacity to translate aggregate economic growth into broad-based poverty reduction, ensuring the benefits of development are widely shared. However, this remarkable success story is not without its challenges, which mirror the inherent tensions in the SDG 8 agenda. The next phase of Vietnam's development must confront issues of improving job quality and strengthening labor protections within its manufacturing sectors, addressing growing inequality between urban and rural areas, and seriously mitigating the environmental impacts of rapid industrialization. The country thus represents a critical case study, a nation that has masterfully executed the economic growth and productive employment components of SDG 8, but which now faces the complex task of embedding decent work and sustainability into its established model. Slide 13. Environmental Sustainability and SDG 8. The integration of environmental sustainability into Sustainable Development Goal 8 represents a fundamental paradigm shift, acknowledging that long-term economic prosperity is inextricably linked to the health of our planet. This challenges the traditional growth model that has prioritized short-term gains, leading to resource depletion, pollution, and climate change, factors that now pose existential risks to economic stability itself. The sustainable dimension of SDG 8 mandates operating within planetary boundaries, reframing environmental protection not as a constraint but as a foundation for resilient economies. This transition is catalyzing the creation of green jobs across renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and green construction, offering a just transition for workers and demonstrating that climate action can be a net generator of decent employment. Concurrently, the adoption of circular economy principles, moving from a linear, take-make-waste model to one that designs out waste and keeps materials in use, unlocks new economic opportunities through innovation and enhanced resource efficiency. This integrated approach resolves the false dichotomy between economic development and environmental stewardship. It recognizes that ecosystems are the ultimate capital stock, providing the resources and services upon which all economic activity depends. Therefore, achieving SDG 8 requires policies that internalize environmental costs, incentivize sustainable technologies, and foster green skills development. The goal is not merely to create jobs, but to build an economic system that generates prosperity while regenerating the natural systems that sustain it, ensuring that growth today does not compromise the well-being of future generations. Slide 14. The gender dimension of SDG 8. Gender equality is not merely an adjunct to Sustainable Development Goal 8 but a fundamental determinant of its achievement. Globally, women face persistent structural barriers to full economic participation, including discriminatory laws and practices, the disproportionate burden of unpaid care work, and limited access to capital and productive resources. The pervasive gender pay gap, which persists even in advanced economies, is a stark indicator of these entrenched inequalities. The case of India is particularly illustrative of the challenge, boasting one of the world's lowest female labor force participation rates, FLFPR, at approximately 20 to 25%. This represents a catastrophic waste of human capital and economic potential. Studies consistently show that closing gender gaps in employment and entrepreneurship could add trillions to global GDP. Conversely, nations that have proactively addressed these barriers, such as Rwanda through legislative quotas and Vietnam via targeted investment in female-intensive export manufacturing, demonstrate the profound economic and social dividends of gender-inclusive growth. Therefore, integrating a robust gender lens into SDG 8 strategies is not optional but essential. This requires moving beyond simplistic metrics of job creation to address the qualitative aspects of decent work for women, including workplace safety, the provision of childcare infrastructure, the promotion of women into leadership roles, and the recognition and redistribution of unpaid care work. Achieving truly sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth is impossible without the full and equitable participation of half the population. Their empowerment is the cornerstone of building resilient economies and societies. Slide 15. Measuring Progress. SDG 8 Indicators. Sustainable Development Goal 8, SDG 8, focuses on promoting sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Progress toward this goal is measured through a variety of indicators that capture both economic performance and the quality of employment. Globally, the annual GDP growth rate has varied across regions, with many countries facing disruptions due to COVID-19. In contrast, India's economy has shown resilience, achieving a robust 7.2% growth rate in 2022-23. While the GDP per employed person shows slow growth in many regions worldwide, India's indicator is improving but still remains below its full potential, suggesting untapped productivity. The challenge of informal employment persists globally, with around 60% of the workforce engaged in informal work. This issue is more acute in India, where nearly 90% of workers are part of the informal sector, reflecting limited social security and job stability. Similarly, the unemployment rate stands at about 5.8% globally, compared to 7.8% in urban India, indicating higher joblessness in India's cities. Youth unemployment remains a pressing concern. Globally, around 22% of youth are not in education, employment, or training, need, while India's figure is higher, at approximately 30%, highlighting the need for skill development and youth engagement initiatives. Finally, work-related accidents have been declining globally but remain high, whereas India faces significant underreporting, making it difficult to assess workplace safety comprehensively. Overall, while India has made progress in economic growth and financial inclusion, major challenges persist in formalizing employment, improving working conditions, and addressing youth unemployment. Strengthening data collection and policy interventions is vital for accurately measuring progress and advancing toward SDG 8 targets. Slide 16. Policy recommendations for accelerating SDG 8. Achieving the multifaceted objectives of Sustainable Development Goal 8 requires a coherent and integrated policy framework that addresses both the quantity and quality of economic growth. A primary recommendation is to invest strategically in human capital by radically transforming education and skills development systems. This entails closing the pervasive skills mismatch by embedding digital literacy, critical thinking, and adaptability into curricula to prepare workers for the future of work, not the economy of the past. Concurrently, governments must extend social protection floors to all workers, particularly those in the vast informal sector. Portable benefit systems that cover healthcare, unemployment, and pensions are essential for providing security in dynamic labor markets and facilitating transitions between jobs. This must be coupled with efforts to strengthen labor institutions by enforcing robust labor rights, promoting collective bargaining, and ensuring workplace safety inspections to uphold decent work standards. Furthermore, economic policy must actively promote green growth by creating incentives for sustainable industries and financing a just transition for workers in carbon-intensive sectors. This aligns economic development with environmental sustainability. For a country like India, a specific focus on the gradual formalization of the informal economy is paramount, combining social protection with measures to enhance productivity. Internationally, development cooperation must focus on building productive capacities and advocating for reforms in global trade and financial systems to create a more level playing field for developing nations. Slide 17. Key takeaways, the path forward for SDG 8. The pursuit of Sustainable Development Goal 8 demands a nuanced and integrated approach, recognizing that its achievement is both a means and an end for the entire 2030 agenda. The central takeaway is the necessity for a balanced approach that reconciles often competing objectives, stimulating economic growth while ensuring environmental sustainability, enhancing productivity while guaranteeing inclusivity, and fostering labor market flexibility while providing worker security. A one-dimensional focus on any single aspect is destined to fail. Critically, context matters immensely. While the principles of decent work are universal, their application must be tailored to specific national realities. India's pathway, characterized by its vast informal sector and demographic dividend, will differ fundamentally from Sweden's mature welfare state or Vietnam's export-led manufacturing model. Effective strategies must be grounded in local economic structures, institutional capacities, and cultural norms. Furthermore, the deep interlinkages with other SDGs underscore that progress is synergistic. Advancements in education, SDG 4, gender equality, SDG 5, and climate action, SDG 13, are both prerequisites for an outcomes of success on SDG 8. The COVID-19 pandemic served as a stark reminder of systemic vulnerabilities, highlighting the urgent need to build resilient economic systems that protect the most vulnerable during crises. The path forward requires a fundamental reimagining of our economic models, moving beyond conventional wisdom to build systems that universally recognize the dignity of work while operating steadfastly within planetary boundaries. This is the profound challenge and opportunity that defines the contemporary global development agenda. This brings end to our presentation. As we move forward, we shall begin exploring Sustainable Development Goals 9. Building the future through industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We encourage you to stay connected with our channel for the upcoming session, and to share this content with fellow professionals who share their passion for sustainable development with our channel. Until then, I wish you all about their professional journey filled with excitement, challenges and sustainable prosperity. Lastly, wish you happy and prosperous Diwali and continuing enjoying Diwali vacations for a week.